Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are just going to put our spreader on our gator and we are going to spread some clover, red clover, into our canola for a little bit of an experiment, and then we've got some custom work to spread some hay for guys. So that's what we're up to today, so sit back and enjoy and we'll get right to it. So this is technically a salt spreader, but it does a really good job with red clover. And we've got a custom hitch built on it that we can mount right on the gator to the trailer hitch. And then we just put a pin in, like we're towing a trailer. Variable speed, which is nice. And then all we do is secure it on there. Is we've got a ratchet strap that we pull up. There. Then we just tighten that up, and you can see how it just brings that spreader up and it takes the shake out of it. Oh! And then we've got this curtain rod that goes on back here, and this is what controls the gate underneath so that we have the ability to shut the spreader off if we're turning or we quit moving. Just getting that lined up just right is sometimes easier said than done. Like that. And then all we do is, this is our control box that controls our speed and our on and off of our spreader. That just gets to run up and hangs out in the back, and then we pull power for this off of the gator itself. We've got a line right off of the battery, and it's just got trailer plugs, or a two-prong trailer plug. And we plug that in, and we're ready to go spread clover. Hey guys, we're out in our canola field with our gator behind us, and we're just out doing some crop scouting and a couple other things, doing an experiment because I have poor listening skills. And what I mean by that is we're going to spread some leftover red clover we've had for a year from our winter wheat last year, and we're going to be spreading that in our canola kind of as a cover crop. And what we do is we're this pylon buried in the ground so that it doesn't blow away over to the pylon way out in front of the gator. We're going to tile this summer and run a main through here. So we're going to try and spread some clover on that to give us a little bit of footing in the mud that we get into in the summertime, and just kind of as a cover crop experiment. Multiple people have told us this won't work due to canola choking out the clover, and we desiccate our canola with Reglone, and that'll also knock out the clover, but we're hoping that with enough of the canopy of the canola that'll keep this crop from choking out that clover with the Reglone. So we're going to use our gator, but right now we're just doing some root digs. I'll show you what we're looking at. So we're digging down into these roots, And what we're checking is the crown of this plant, which is right there. And we're making sure these plants are good and healthy, that they've survived winter, and that this crop is basically has the nutrients it needs, and that this plant isn't hollowing out. So we've dug a couple other plants up, and this is another one. This is the top of the plant, another crown root right there, or a crown of the plant. And then this would be the underside. You can see a little bit of the tap root, the brown, and you can just see that hollow hole starting right in the center of the frame, right there. And that's a sign that we're maybe getting a little bit deficient in some boron. So when we come back in with our 28% in a couple weeks, we can put a little bit of boron on with that crop and hopefully address that deficiency and just give this crop a little bit more of what it needs. So what we'll do is we'll dig a couple more of these roots out and look at this plant and see what this crop looks like. So we're out here in this killed out or thinner spot, and what it was a wet spot in the fall that we seen from the drone. So we're out here with the gator. It is a little bit soft. We've got some mud on the tires, but nothing we can't handle out here. So what we're doing is, you can tell the plants are just stunted out here. They aren't as thick, even though the rest of the field is planted at the same population and such, that it just struggled right here. So what we're doing is same idea out here, and I'll show you what we're doing. Get you guys all set up here. So we're just pulling a few plants, and you can see why these plants have struggled. So the ground is here, the crown is up here. You can see how that plant elongated right there, and that's what hurts these plants in the wintertime. When they elongate, that growing point, or that crown, goes up above the ground. I'll just have a look there. That plant's still nice and healthy, but that's what hurts these plants, is they get up and they get a little bit higher than the rest of the plants, trying to get out of that wet spot, trying to get away from that moisture, and that hurts the sorry, just playing with the camera there. That hurts the growing point in the wintertime. The wind can get at it, but the plants still look good and healthy, and for the most part, you can see that they're still nice and healthy in the ground there. So this spot will be a little bit thinner on yield-wise. We're hoping that there is enough stand here, and canola is known, so we'll take this little guy just to see. So same thing, he's nice and green on the inside. You can see him there, he's nice and green. So they did survive this. They are just thinner, so that was our germination that happened. It is water damaged. It is wetter here than anywhere else in the field when we're driving, so this did take some of the damage. We're hoping this plant will branch out. It is a plant that likes to branch and take over the room, so we'll see. We are going to suffer a little bit of yield here, and we've got a couple spots like that. I can see 2 or 3 of them from here. Looking up, you can see just the darker purple areas. But overall, this crop looks fantastic for right now. So it's April 1st, and we're out with the gator putting clover on. But just as an April Fool's joke, we still have snowbanks in our ditches that are running water. But there's still snow here on April 1st. So happy April Fools to us that winter still could show up in a day. And just for my own sake, and I'll tell you why we do it, but anybody that's ever run a sprayer can attest to this, why you always start at the back of a farm when you start spraying. And the reason for that is, even though the sprayer was cleaned out and washed out, there's about a 90-foot strip by probably a 90-foot square, and then up the ditch that there's no canola. It was here. I promise you. It was here. It looked good. We come in with a herbicide in the fall and to kill off our volunteer wheat, and you can see the plants were big. They were big plants. I promise. And that's what I got left. I got nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I've got no one to blame but myself on this. That side up there, I don't know why that's like that, because we didn't start up there, but yeah, you always start at the back of the farm. So on the bright side, we'll have somewhere to turn the combine around. We won't have to worry about trampling any crop, and we store some of our tillage equipment back here. Our 22-foot international discs live back here most of the time. This is where they finished. But, oops. So here you can kind of see my boom, how the taper started. We come over, the edge of my boom's just over here, another 5 feet or so. And we're a nice healthy crop, and you can see that taper. So I'll show you we know what a healthy plant looks like. So we'll dig down and we'll cut a couple plants open here of what a plant that probably, if it does survive, it isn't going to yield great. So we get down, we look at this plant, and anybody that's cut vegetables in the kitchen or anything, so that one's still pretty good, and you can hear it. Cut open, it's nice and green. But these two will be a good example. So you can hear a good healthy plant. So fairly healthy, a little bit of damage coming along here, but then we go to a plant that isn't very healthy. So the difference here that we're looking at is the brown ring inside the plant. And then you can see that white kind of rotten, powdery stuff. So that isn't a plant that it'll make it. The yield on it will be questionable what that plant does. But if we go over to a plant that's got a little bit of green, but has suffered some damage, like this guy, when you look at that, you can see more of that rotting way down in there, and you'll get some of the plants that like this guy. So he's got some new growth coming. You can see it's not coming out of the crown, it's coming out underneath of the crown, and the crown would be right there in the middle of the knife. But when you cut this open, you can see how it almost squeezes the juice. But look inside of that plant, that it's just brown and rotten. So that plant is going to try and grow. I don't expect much out of plants like this. Probably half an acre back here where the sprayer wasn't cleaned out as good as it should have been. But we're still learning on this. It is a mistake on my part that we should have flushed that sprayer probably 1 or 2 more times, run some more clean water through it. But that's also why we start at the back of farms. So what we did, we had enlisted that sprayer for the last pass in our soybeans, or a little bit of Roundup and some fungicide. Either that, or we were doing burn down for winter wheat, so we would have had Roundup and Aragon. And canola is a conventional crop, it's not a traded crop, so it won't take herbicides like that. It isn't Roundup ready, so Roundup or Enlist would just nuke it. So we try to always rinse our sprayers out, and we do. Probably should have pulled every single tip out of that sprayer instead of just letting the ammonia flush it. But we come in with a grass herbicide in here, and since canola is a brassica, which is a broadleaf crop, our grass herbicide killed the grasses, but that Roundup killed the broadleaf. So a little bit of a mistake on our part. It is something to keep in mind going forward for this crop, how sensitive it is, but all in all, it's not, like, it looks worse right now than it is. Once this crop gets up and growing, we'll better assess it once we get it up to bolting stage. So, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in the next one. I hope you learned something today.